Part of me fears that I'm gonna start getting like the inverse reputation on this podcast of like Bridget, where like we're kind of just silently expecting like, you know, not great things in terms of selections after X 1999 and Prey.
I'm not giving her that out. She always has the potential to pick a good movie. She just doesn't.
I've said this a billion times that X was not an intentional bad movie pick. It was a movie I had not seen.
Totally.
No, yeah. But anyways,
the second choice was absolutely a bad movie. I picked it because it was bad.
The main point I was trying to make is I fear that I'm just going to get this reputation of being a fucking killjoy who selects like the incredibly heavy things to start each rotation on.
That's why. Oh, go ahead.
I pick more heavy things, but I want Bree to be able to watch them.
Bree was able to watch this movie.
The ones
this
I think
movie
about
was very heavy. You gotta get a wider palette for dark things that don't necessarily consist of triggers for Brianna, is what I would say.
Every moment of this film sucked because it was brilliant. Like,
yeah,
because it so accurately portrayed the hell it was showing.
Yeah. This movie is a dreadful experience without assaulting women in that specific kind of way.
Well, I understand, like, you're afraid of getting the reputation of like someone who like the idea that you just pick serious cinema to inflict upon us. But that's why, and this is the first time we're talking about it on recording. We need to put Project Melon into action. You know,
I know what
that thing
that
we talked
means.
about.
I know what that means.
Thing we talked
and
about.
I do not like it.
That thing we talked about.
How is it I remember what that is and Jay does?
I'm sorry. It's genuinely.
We definitely talked about it. We didn't name it that. I'm naming it right now.
I understand what it is.
I don't know.
Okay,
what it is.
And I think that's a perfectly reasonable way not to.
I'm just commenting on the fact that I understand what Evie is talking about, despite it not being a plan that involves me.
But once Jay gets it, like she'll know what I'm talking about.
Hold on. Can you explain for both myself and the audience what this Project Melon is?
I can't look. Someone has to be in the dark about this, and I guess instead of Bree and Bridget being in the dark about it, both you and Bree are going to be in the dark about it.
Fuck, what was it? I can't remember what it was now.
Believe me.
On recording?
It wasn't a recording.
But believe you what?
But believe me, when I put it into motion, you'll know.
Oh! I think I remember what it is now. Okay.
I'm like the only one in the dark right now.
Okay. I'm
find
pretty
it
sure.
so funny that I figured out instantly what Evie was talking about, despite not even being involved in your plans.
I mean, it could start one like notch in the rotation earlier, Bridget, if you want in.
Oh yeah, I know a perfect Ralph Bakshi movie.
Sorry, pardon me for a second here while I take my pants off. It's too fucking hot.
Is that the person responsible for the Bakshi Boys? The boy band?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I would make a joke, but then if I tried to, I would probably accidentally like sing like the other band, like the NSYNC or something, because I don't know who did what.
Yeah,
and
like
it would be
LFO.
like, haha, Brie don't know music. So yeah.
Josie and the Pussycats?
No, we're not gonna talk about Josie. Oh fuck. I hate that now that name has been uttered on this podcast, and thus it's a potential pick at some point.
I mean, the threat was always
actress-
there.
I know it was.
Josie and the Pussycats have
actress-
been mentioned on this podcast before.
Yeah, the lead actress in that movie has
I
the
was
worst
listing
voice.
off
I'm
all
sorry,
those
I-
fucking...
I'm talking about the movie, not the fucking cartoon.
Yeah. As am I. I hate her voice. I couldn't get past it when y'all tried to watch it. I was sitting there like, I can't hear this person talk. Like, this is like Tommy Pickles took up smoking 6 years ago. I can't fucking deal with this shit.
The worst decision I ever made, putting
Yeah.
on that movie. Just kind of like, oh yeah, Bridget's talked about it
How
as being
bad
like
can
a.
this be? We thought.
Sure enough,
There are
that
some
movie-
good points to that movie. Does it save the movie? Absolutely not. But
No. But
there's a branded airplane. That movie starts off with somebody crashing a Target airplane, like a Target branded airplane into the ground.
which would be really funny if the whole thing wasn't so blatantly an ad for everything everywhere.
literally
the road
ad
signs
world,
where
that's
he
the
crashed
point.
it and walked away are just like fucking signs
This-
for other stores.
Hold on. This is a conversation for. Bump the mic. This is a conversation for a completely fucking different podcast because trust me, Bridget, I could go the fuck off right now if I wanted to about the ideas that you are expounding upon. I'm gonna practice restraint.
Okay.
Ooh la la
We have
from
a long
Space
thing to
Channel
talk
5
about
has
here.
like a cardboard cutout in it. Isn't that cool?
We will talk about that movie when you inevitably end up fucking picking it.
I won't pick it.
Really?
Good.
No, I'm not gonna. So, like, Brie wouldn't even watch it. Why would I pick it again?
It's true. I don't think I could get through it.
Did we
like, your
watch something
lead
good
actress-
recently?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Space Runaway Ideon? We didn't mention that on
That,
the podcast.
that movie is good. But like, oh, we watched Space Jam recently.
Yeah, that movie's good
That's
too.
not. I would categorize it as good, but I was trying to remember something that
It's
we wanted to talk
fun.
about.
There's fun in it. We had fun watching it. You know what I think counts as an okay movie or slight leading towards good when you have fun. F is for friends who do stuff together.
Stop this.
U
Don't
is
do that.
for-
What reviews connected by cast or crew deciding the next film, that's the gist. Put it on the list.
Wait, hold on. Let's let the dog chill out because she's
Bisky.
freaking out a little bit. Come here.
Oh, right, counting.
Yeah.
here, Bean
for
Book.
some reason, it just sets her off. Hi, Bisky. Hi, Bisky. Maybe give her a peanut butter Kong.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Because now that I did that count, she's actually like activated.
She is like ready to go.
Yeah, she hasn't. For some reason, she hasn't gotten activated before with the clap countdown, but this time it just did it to her.
I feel like the heightened emotion
Into her mind.
is probably what did it.
Paris.
Space Jam's not good, but like, look, it's
my meds, baby.
there's like a certain like generation of people that we belong to, basically to a woman, where like that movie is like it occupies a slot in your brain. It was just like it represents a specific time or a specific period of time and place in the culture that we all grew up in, and it is special because of that.
No, yeah, like I can't remember if you were on the call when I mentioned it to Bridget, but like Space Jam is one of those movies that like I can just tell you the plot of Space Jam, like regardless of how long it's been since I've watched Space Jam. You ask me, hey, what's Space Jam about? And I'll be like, okay, so this happens, and then this happens, this shit happens here, then this happens here. What was...
Wayne Knight inflates.
Yeah.
Wayne Knight gets inflated. Moron Mountain sperm jacks famous NBA players at the time.
Oh yeah.
Danny DeVito comes on stage and is like, "Yo, monsters, you need a sperm jack the NBA."
We need you to sperm jack Charles Barkley.
Like, they don't literally sperm jack Charles Barkley, but they basically sperm
do
jack.
that. On the court.
Disgusting. Anyways,
That's the
hi,
real
everyone.
special stuff.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Put It on the List. My name is Jay.
My name is Bree.
Everyone, you should go, if you use Discord, bring up the GIF thing and type Elmer Fudd spitting. You'll be rewarded.
That's Bridget.
That's sweet, Bridget.
And
she's Evie. So yeah, welcome
I already
everybody.
said that.
Welcome back to...
this is a podcast where every other week we gather together and discuss films, with the catch being that whoever picked the movie last time, the next person in the rotation has to pick a new movie connected to the previous one by either cast or crew.
Yeah, that's the idea.
We put it on a list in order for us to watch. Technically, we're breaking our usual recording cycle because we are doing this only a week after the last recording that we did because schedule complications and the like.
Yes.
And also because we watched a film that after we finished watching it all together, Evie was like, I'm fucking champing at the bit to talk about this.
It's
you
time
were
now.
Evie, you were ready, like in that exact
Champing?
moment.
I was.
You're champing at the bit?
Yeah, that's a turn of phrase,
Yeah, that's
Bridget.
Not
That's-
chomping?
No,
it is champing at
Yes,
the bit.
yes, we get to have a Bridget education moment. No, it's the turn of phrase is literally champing at the bit. It is something that has just been replaced over
champing?
time. That's the one thing is I don't know what it's supposed to like, what the actual terminology means.
Fake intellectuals.
But I'm just saying that I know what the original phrase is, and now
Okay.
Bridget is gonna Google it.
Yep.
Um,
We're gonna learn today.
But yeah, it's
Well,
one.
she is. I don't know if I will.
It's one of those things where because most people assume when you say champing at the bit, you mean to say chomping on the bit. They just figure like, oh yeah, that means
My
they're
bits.
saying chomping.
Yeah.
But no. All right.
Oh man, I can't wait to chomp those bits.
Wait for the. I'm champing at the bit to hear the origins of champing at the bit.
I mean, I don't know because dictionary.com lists champing at the bit and its variant chomping at the bit as the same, so...
Anyways, none of that matters. But before we actually get in to the movie discussion proper, folks, as usual, we got icebreaker questions here.
Oh yeah.
Once again, they're all from our dear friend at the podcast, Owen. He, thankfully, basically after we finished recording last time, immediately, like, shotgun blast the inbox with another, like, full set of questions. So
Shout-outs to Owen.
currently we have, shout-outs to Owen. We currently have 5 questions on the docket. Let's start off with one that's a bit of a prescient topic, considering what we were talking about at the beginning of the recording. What movie could Bridget pick that would make you cancel the podcast?
I don't know if she could pick one that's that bad.
No, yeah, that's the real answer is legitimately, Bridget, for all the shit that I give you about your movie choices so far, you literally could not pick one that would make me cancel the podcast. I will chastise you in the recording for choosing the movie. It's not gonna make me like want to cancel this. I enjoy the exercise way too much to cancel it over something silly like that. Anyone else?
Gosh. I mean, I feel like I've talked about it before. There are several things that, like, I mean, I would say either you, Jay, or Bridget there would probably pick that are, like, really up there, but you know not to, just because there are things that, due to my own either traumas or standards, I will not engage with. It will be just at most an episode without me. I'm willing to stand down if I have to, if there's so much that needs to be said about a film. But there are things that I just actually deep down on a soul level cannot engage with. And you've seen what we've been through, what we've talked about. Like, I have range. Like, we'll talk about anything, but there are things that it's actually so mind-numbing to think about that I might have to step down. But I don't know of any, because I've thought about 3 things at random when we talk about this concept on our own, and I don't remember what they are. And if I did, I probably wouldn't want to put them back into the ethos. But there are some. There are ways to get
into
there.
the ethos?
Not the ethos.
The ether?
Into the ether. Thank
Okay.
you. Big difference. So,
Yes.
yeah, there is. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'll know when they happen, if. But we'll talk about it then. I think it is possible that there would be one at least that I would have to be like, no, I can't, no.
Evie?
Like, I mean, like, it would have to be something that's like actively hateful or something. It's just like, but also like, I don't think Bridget would pick that. I don't think she would be like, hey, let's watch Birth of a Nation or something.
The
Like,
Triumph
it's
of
not.
the what?
She's not going to do that.
Yeah.
No,
Like,
yeah.
we're not gonna, yeah.
Yeah, the closest you've gotten to that, Bridget, is, Island of Dr. Moreau, and that's less. That movie is racist, but it's not like in that same like this is actually trying to hurt people kind of way that Evie's talking about.
Yeah, like if she picked something like Team America World Police, I would be like,
Yeah.
ugh. I would be mad.
Yeah.
But also, again, I don't think she would pick that.
The closest thing I can think of is like the movie with the Nazi rats, the
Nutcracker. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh.
yeah,
okay.
The Nazi rats and Nathan Lane as Albert Einstein.
At least that sounds kind of fun.
You remember in the Nutcracker when Albert Einstein showed up?
Yeah. When Nathan
I
Lane showed
honestly
up,
couldn't
yeah.
tell you. I've never been to the ice skating musical itself. I haven't a clue.
I mean, you could just watch the play of the
Yeah,
I
Nutcracker.
would prefer to watch the Barbie movie. I'm sure it's a little bit shorter.
Bridget. Bridget, is there any movie you think you could pick that would cancel the podcast?
Bisky.
It's okay. This key's distracted.
Yeah, Bridget,
It's
do you
fine.
think you have it in you to pick a movie? Like, if you just wanted to burn all this shit down, could you think of a movie that could do that?
Do I just let it burn?
She's really thinking about it.
I mean, The Love Guru is one of the worst movies ever. That's like,
That.
I don't think that would burn down the podcast.
yeah,
no.
that wouldn't do that. However, I wonder if y'all could even survive through Food Fight, because that's something even I don't fully wanna go through.
I mean,
I've seen clips of it, and those have been hard for me to get through. I don't think I could do the whole thing.
I could probably make it through that movie, but I don't know if I would have anything to say about it.
That'd be the worst part, really.
That ends up being the thing that actually scares me more than anything, is when we eventually hit the first movie that, like, all of us are like, oh, I don't have shit to say.
And we all hate it.
like,
A net loss for everybody.
yeah, everyone dislikes
Even
that.
if I picked one of those movies, I would have plenty to say. But
Would you?
I would
you have
have
plenty
plenty to say about Food Fight. There's a billion things you could talk about with that movie, but
I learn something new about you every day. It's life is interesting.
Hey, would that just be like 20 minutes of you listing off all of the brands that show up in there?
I mean, that
She
wouldn't
would talk
be
about
hard.
the production also.
Yeah, it has a bizarre production similar to.
It would be a similar episode to Island of Dr. Moreau.
However,
most
there's a
likely.
major difference. There are no funny parts of Food Fight. There are at least some things you can get laughs out of in Dr. Moreau. Food Fight, that is a dead zone. Evie, I showed you a quick clip of that movie. What did you think when I showed
I
you?
mean, I thought it was dog shit. I told you as much at the time.
Oh gosh. All right. I feel like we've exhausted that topic at this point.
Moving on.
All right. Next question from Owen. Who is your least favorite award-winning or nominated actor? Not necessarily asking about actors who are bad people like Johnny Depp. I mean people who just have a style or presence that annoys or angers you when you see their name in the credits. For me, it's Jared Leto. I do not think that man can act, and he actively ruins every scene he appears in. This is a very interesting question.
That is.
Because the one answer that I could think of, I feel like is probably a divisive one. I don't... And we've talked about him on this podcast before. I don't think I like Tom Hanks very much.
I feel that.
There's, like, he's not awful, but he's, like, maybe one of the most, like, quintessential, like, boring white guy actors that exists out there to me.
Like, calling him one of the great actors of all time is like calling the, like, privileged to publish their work white writers of a time obsessed with a whale every time they were jerking off who wrote a book. These are the greats. It's like, have you read anything since then? No! What's the point?
Like, that's why I want to emphasize, like, the least favorite. Because it's not that I dislike him actively. It's just, there's nothing...
there's no meat for you.
He doesn't have that sauce that, like, he doesn't have, like, that Tom Hardy sauce where I see Tom Hardy and I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. You put on that goofy fucking mask and talk like you're in a tin can. Yes, it's me, Batman.
That's pretty good.
But that was my one, especially when you consider like some shit he's been nominated for, like Big and Forrest Gump. Like, those are.
What about Jim Hanks?
Who?
Jim Hanks is Tom Hanks' brother, who is used whenever they need a Woody. But they can't afford Tom Hanks, so they get Jim Hanks.
They get his brother. Like, the idea of your voice acting career being your brother's replacement.
Honestly, not a bad gig if you can get it.
No, yeah.
Fair point.
I feel like
he's Woody in Kingdom Hearts.
I'm not talking about
Nobody
Jim Hanks.
ever loved you.
I think Tom Hanks has got. I like Tom Hanks. I think that there are roles that he is like. He gets to do a little more in. That's just like.
How do you feel about his Geppetto in the live-action Disney Pinocchio movie?
Let's move on, Brie.
Gosh. I mean, that's a tough one, because, like, off the top of my head, I know there are probably several when I think of it, but I'm having trouble conjuring, like, a name, a role here. God, that's...
You dislike Jeff Goldblum.
You might be right. Which one was that again?
That's the guy from The Fly, Jurassic Park.
Life finds a way.
Yeah. He hits a bit flat. I feel like
specifically, he gives you, like, creep vibes.
Oh, yeah! Okay, yeah, no, I mean, that's a different thing, but, like, he does kind of creep me out. That's just a me thing. It's a weird panic response I get to seeing his face.
I think that's valid for the question.
Okay,
I mean,
fair
on The
enough,
Fly,
yeah.
he is kind of a creep. He's not necessarily, like, a quote-unquote good person.
No, but I mean, like, especially when you consider, like, how are you gonna bash, like, Jurassic Park? Everyone only saw that when they were 10, and they'll kill me if I speak ill of it. But the fact is, you didn't say the magic word. There's plenty of things to remember and love about the film. The point is, I don't know what it is. I have, like, maybe I was molested by someone who looked like him when I was, like, 4. I don't know. But I've got this immediate panic response in me when I see that man's face. And
He's
I can't
also an
compare
invasion
it
of the
to
body
any
snatcher.
reason.
Yes, yeah.
Which would make more sense, but I haven't seen it. So I'm like, I don't know. There's some weird gut response I get from it. It's not your fault. You keep on being out there acting, kicking ass, assuming, is he still alive?
Yeah.
Keep being alive, keep acting in those films. Don't listen to me. It's a weird thing that I've just never been able to figure out.
it was very weird the first time like you brought that up to me, and I was just like, Jeff, he's so affable though. Like
no, he looks like he's happy and having a good time and collected.
Yeah.
If he was a little uglier, he'd be as hot as Dave Gahan. But the point is, he's just, I don't know. There's something about him that sets off my distrust animal brain. And I can't explain it.
For sure.
I don't know. But that's just a weird thing. That's not on him. That's just, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
You know? All kinds of answers. Speaking of, Evie, you got one?
Yeah, it is hard for me to think of an answer to this one too, because like I don't know if I think about actors that way, and like generally like if an actor is nominated for awards, I guess they're probably like at least good enough that I don't think about them.
They do the thing that they're supposed to do in their job and just bleed into the role.
The one that like comes to mind that I just don't even aside from all the stuff about him being a weird religious conservative guy, like I don't think Chris Pratt is good. Like I don't think he's a good actor. Like I think like the one movie that I liked him in, which is you know the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, like he is not like that in basically any other movie that he's in. Like
I was going to say I kind of agree with you with him too, because I remember that film and like the newer Jurassic Park. I don't know if that's the new one now because that's been
World,
years.
yeah.
But Jurassic World. I hated him in that for the same reason I hated him in that film. That even though it seems like he should have been poured into the mold of Guardians, like, I don't know, he's so unlikable, and he's so, like, he's the jock everyone likes in high school because they don't want to get their underwear pulled up.
It's like, hey, I'm a body
who is
on
bribing you all to love this
Yeehaw.
man? He can't act. So I think that, like, he's one of those people that you're like, man, like, you got some kind of a hard-on for this guy, and I'm glad you find him attractive. Good for him. But, like, I don't think he's a good actor. And I think for me, and I say this knowing damn well that Michael Cera is an adult, he's like the adult Michael Cera, where it's like just no presence. Just his
Michael
whole
Cera's
presence
another
is-
one that you...
Yeah, exactly. Michael Cera and him too are both in scenes that are just like, oh my god, I'm me and I'm here. Hi everyone. Like it's just no fucking personality whatsoever. So I think
Anyways.
there's three from me.
Returning to Evie, sorry.
yeah. You were castigating Bridget for doing the stuff thing about Chris Pratt with a southern accent, but he totally does do that in the movies. Mm-hmm. He totally has this affected like it's not like maybe like not like a full southern accent, but like he kind of has this like.
Yeah,
he has this
not Larry
affect.
the Cable Guy level.
Yeah,
but
it's like there's like
But he has a twang.
Yeah, he has a twang, and like he and like it's. I hate it. I hate this affected folksiness that he has, and like also just any time I see him in like an action guy role is just like. What are we doing here, man? Like, it is.
Yeah.
This is just.
You are the fucking goofy guy in Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you're
how,
not
how did
supposed
you
to be
get here?
Yeah, you stopped
This is
drinking
not
beer
your
and
role.
lost 50 pounds. Like what is?
Yeah.
Oh, look at
How about him
me.
as
I'm Chris
Garfield?
Pratt. I'm practicing self-care and taking better care of my body. I deserve to be in
good
action
for you,
movies.
Chris. Good for you. But also, as for your acting, I don't care.
But that's not what actually happened. That's the joke that they used to cover the fact that he was getting buff for Marvel movies. And yeah, like the fact that he's doing all this like hackneyed action stuff and also like doing
shitty voice acting.
Yeah, kitty voice acting, and is just like generic insert actor here. Like for that is just like miss me with it.
That's the thing. Aside from him being annoying on as it is, it does feel like he is just inserted into roles to have him in a thing, as opposed to him being a good fit for it. Mm-hmm. Pretty often. So I think I similarly like. Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. That's one of them. That is just like he's
Bridget.
here because he was told he has to be here.
Bridget, do you have an answer, Bridget?
One thing I want to point out, I was racking my brain about where I heard Jeff Goldblum recently in an animated movie, and then I remembered he's the villain in Boss Baby 2. He's an ultra smart baby.
Have you seen Boss Baby 2, Bridget?
I have little nephews. Yes, I have. I didn't do it willingly.
Like, I also have little nephews, and I have avoided watching Boss Baby 2. So you don't bring that to me.
You can choose.
Don't blame your family for this.
Dragging them into
This
it
movie
all.
tells me I absolutely should blame my family.
Anyways, do you have an actual choice aside from dropping the knowledge of Jeff Goldblum being in Boss Baby 2 on us?
I don't know about, like, trying to think of, like, any actor specifically that I see they're part of the cast and be like, ugh. I feel like the extended Sandler-verse, some of the actors there, if I ever see them in something, I'm like, just
We
like
sort of
side-
dropped the award-nominated part of this question, didn't we?
I don't know who has awards. Adam Sandler probably has an award, right?
Yeah,
Best actor in
I
Flick.
think,
Yeah, he's been nominated.
And yeah, he's been nominated at the very least. I mean, if you consider that like John Turturro has like been part of the like Sandler verse, I'm pretty sure he's probably been nominated
it's-
before.
It's like sort of the thing where, like, you know, it's like with Adam Sandler where it's like if he's given like an actual good director, he can like
Well, here is the secret to every time that Adam Sandler has been good in a movie. It's not the director. It's knowing that Adam Sandler is best utilized as being an absolute piece of shit for the character that he's chosen. Like, you look at Punch Drunk Love and you look at Uncut Gems, which are like the two movies he's noted for acting in. And like, that's basically him just doing his like Adam Sandler like shtick, aside from goofy voices.
yeah, like Hotel Transylvania.
Sure.
He's like the guy in Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, he's Dracula. He's the main voice.
No, I just didn't get how it connected aside from it being Adam Sandler in Hotel Transylvania. That was the only reason.
you
I
said
couldn't
goofy
use the fun-
voices.
Oh, okay.
and that movie's
okay,
been like
okay,
nominated for awards.
That's depressing.
Gotcha.
And those movies are okay.
I
Griffin
mean, they
Newman
are
of
made
the
by a
Blank Check
very good
podcast stands by
director.
them.
Yeah.
But I guess extended Adam Sandler, cause like I don't know what.
I mean,
what's-
Steve Buscemi has been in those movies, and Steve Buscemi is a good actor. Like,
Yeah,
a very
I
good
mean-
actor.
I mean, like the mainstays, like always there,
Sure.
like your Blarts.
Kevin James has not always been in
Well,
Sandler
yeah,
movies.
he's a latter day edition.
We've
got
gotten
Rob Schneider.
The
fully-
Latter Day Sandlers, yeah.
We've gotten fully off track from this.
Who's the white boy who's like current Spider-Man? He seems like
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland
Yeah.
seems like a non-actor.
Hey, remember when people were like, Tom Holland should be nominated for awards for being Spider-Man? It's just like, get the fuck out of here. Not that awards are the be-all, end-all of, like, you know, whether something should be worth it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't give a shit, frankly. But, yeah.
But for acting in your big Marvel movie is like basically just slotting perfectly into this pre-existing character. It's like, no, you basically just picked him because he is Peter Parker. That's not so much acting. That's just you picked the right person for the fucking job.
That's
And he-
casting. That's
And he's fully just like
casting
a
victory.
company guy. Like, Disney knows that they got him in pocket, and they don't have to worry about him being like a Robert Downey Jr. and asking for too much money.
Yeah. So, anyways, do we want to do one more? Yeah?
I've got it in me.
Alright, so Owen stepped up to the challenge of the last time we had one of these kinds of questions. He sends us another fuck, marry, kill.
Okay.
This one
shit.
is actually a challenge.
Okay.
Fuck, marry, kill, Shrek, Austin Powers, Cat in the Hat, Mike Meyers version. That's tough. So I feel like I have my answer. Easy kill on the Cat in the Hat.
Oh, yes.
Like,
100%.
Yeah, I don't know if this
Easy.
was actually hard.
I think it's going to depend on your approach between the last two. I think at the very least, the fuck and marry is a bit of a tighter race there. So I pick Austin Powers for fuck because I think at the very least, you know that man is going to fucking try. Like,
The man knows his way around a fuck.
and then you marry Shrek because the man ends up in the long run of the Shrek universe. He is a prince. At the end of the day, you will get married into royalty and thus basically be set for life.
Wait. He's only a prince because he marries into royalty.
Well, no, doesn't there end up being a reveal in like the later Shrek movies that he... No?
Baby? I don't know. I didn't like...
I'm pretty
Not that
sure...
I know of.
I think there's a reveal in the later Shrek movies that he was like always like royalty of some kind.
I mean, my answer is basically the same as yours, but I think Shrek, like, he's at least a dedicated partner. I think
That's
like
fair,
he is. He's dependable.
That was the thing
I can
was gonna
fix
fall
him.
back. That's the thing that I was going to fall back on is that, like, even if he doesn't have the royalty, you look at that family over the course of those films and
They did
they
announce a
seem
new
to-
Shrek movie.
anyone else have differing opinions on this fuck, marry, kill?
Not really. I mean, it once again that just kind of makes sense. The Cat in the Hat is just too much of a joker.
You gotta
any-
put that thing down. Like there's you can't let the cat in the
Yeah,
hat
he's
roam
like an
around
agent of
free.
chaos, and
The-
not in
the
like
Cat in
a
the
good
Hat-
way.
Cat in the Hat has had a long life. Like it's ready to be put down at this point.
I mean, I think it's more just like a rabid dog, just like something. Just like, oh, its existence is a net negative in the world. We need to
It's-
I have a
take care of
question.
this.
I have an important question.
It's attacked some kids at this point. Like it's gotta go away. What's your question, Bridget?
So, if you kill Cat in the Hat, does that mean you also have to kill Thing 1 and Thing 2?
No, thing one and thing two are
They're just there?
The henchmen will find work. They'll work it out.
Listen, if thing one and thing two decide to get in the way of me trying to kill the Cat in the Hat, then they're gonna catch strays.
Like, it's up to them if they want.
Alternatively, if you're fucking Cat in the Hat, does that mean Thing 1 and Thing 2 watch?
Hold on here.
If I make an example, they'll go away, and I won't have to kill them too.
all the more reason that you choose to kill Cat in the Hat above anything else. Like, I don't want those two anywhere near me.
Now I may have to rethink my answer here.
How good are Thing 1 and Thing 2 in bed?
You're gonna have all your holes filled.
Yeah, every
know
single
what?
one.
You know what? I'm changing my answer. We kill Shrek, right? We fuck him just for the fun of like having a whole lot of
Who?
Sorry. We fuck the Cat in the Hat just for the crazy four-way that we can talk about later because that's story worthy. But listen,
He's gonna
if you
use all
marry-
sorts of gadgets too.
Hold on, no. But then you marry Mike Myers. You marry, I mean, just specifically.
Mike Myers? You marry Mike Myers? That's the actual solution to this, is you just marry Mike Myers.
No,
Owen, do you just want to marry Mike Myers? Is that what you've been trying to tell us with
the
this
international man of mystery for for a couple very good reasons. One, he is going to mostly be out solving crimes. He's going to be at work all the time. You live in a very, kind of antiquated but stylish pad. Really fun, really nice furniture and everything, and you're probably well insured because of the government nature of his job. So he's gonna mostly be gone, and when and if he dies, you have a bunch of money and you're pretty much set. So really, in the long run, I think that's my answer.
Marrying into money, you say. I'll let the other girls get their final thoughts in on this, but
All
that
right.
almost makes a perfect transition into what we're going to be talking about.
Yep.
Yeah,
job.
I think you kill Shrek. Like he just catches a hot one here, but you fuck the Cat in the Hat, but he's only allowed to watch. While I get down with thing one and
Can
thing
I
two.
cuck him? Yeah.
Oh,
This
okay,
is an
so
option.
And then
This is a nightmare
nothing
scenario.
to do.
wait,
Mary
are we
Austin Powers because he's
cucking
fun.
Cat in the Hat? Are we cucking him?
That's
hate,
fucking. That's sex. It's a variation.
hate this visual. I truly despise this visual we have laid out here.
as explored in the video game Clickholding by Strange Scaffold 2024. And yeah, you marry Austin Powers because he's fun.
Yeah. He's fun. He's usually gone at work. He's probably very well insured if anything happens to him. It's kind of the perfect thing.
But here's the one risk of that. Then you might catch strays from Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
I want some excitement in my life.
All right.
A lot of things in this world can and probably will kill me, but I can't let that
Doesn't
get in the
all
way
of his
how I live.
girlfriends die?
I mean, yeah.
Girlfriends, but wives, though. If we can make it through the wedding, maybe we'll be okay.
No, he gets married to Vanessa at the end of the first movie, and then she's revealed to be a fembot in the second
A
movie.
fembot.
But
Yeah.
I'm not well, I guess I am on Twitch, but I'm not
I was
a
about to
fembot.
say, yes, you are. You are!
You will be retroactively declared a fembot, and then
But that means I can be
unceremoniously
uploaded
killed.
into another body, probably. So I'll be fine. I'll
Hey.
be fine.
Bridget, do you have anything else to add onto this?
Cat in the Hat holding.
Speaking of marrying into money,
Uh-huh.
the topic of our actual discussion today is Martin Scorsese's 2023 film Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's
I
right.
connected
It's
us-
the Bloodborne movie.
Oh man, Bloodborne movie would go hard.
Oh, yeah.
But I connected
Okay,
this
time
one.
out. Who would you get to direct the Bloodborne movie?
Now there is a question. I don't know enough about the game. I gotta be real. I think it's cinematically fascinating, but I'm not the one to call who would do that.
Is it
Gareth Evans. Gareth Evans.
Evans.
Gareth
Evans.
Okay.
The raid guy.
Oh,
I get the raid guy to direct
yeah.
because he also did a short in VHS 2 that's basically like a cult demon movie where you get some good good supernatural shit
Did
in
you
there.
say UHF too?
Did I?
No, I think you said
I said-
VHS.
Okay. You're just hearing Weird Al Yankovic
I must
on the
have
wind.
misheard. We'll see in the recording. I could be wrong.
But yeah, I think Gareth Evans could do a good horror action movie
Okay.
centered around Bloodborne.
All right, yeah, because my my basic bitch brain goes to you get Guillermo del Toro to do.
That's a good one too.
That is
But
a good one.
I like the idea of doing it from a more choreography from the action side of it. I think
There's so much
a good
choreography in
idea.
those games. Yeah, and the raid guy is so perfect at directing all of those single momentums and movement. That would be perfect for that alone.
You heard me, Gareth Evans. After you're done with whatever movie you're filming with Tom Hardy right now, Bloodborne, get on it.
Yeah.
I like what you said, Evie, and I think Guillermo del Toro should do a stop-motion Bloodborne movie.
Oh, that would be so sick. That would be if he just made a mad god. Like that would be
His Pinocchio movie was stop motion as well, so
yeah. Anyway, time in.
Yes, time back in. I connected the movie we're talking about, Killers of the Flower Moon, via the casting on Prey, Renee Haynes, who also did casting on this film. To give a short summary of what this movie is about, Killers of the Flower Moon centers around a character by the name of Ernest Burkhart, World War I veteran who, upon returning home, in part due to like an injury that's like left him unable to do most traditional work, his uncle, William King Hale, who lives in Osage County, takes Ernest in, gets him a job as a driver around town. The big point of like it taking place in this area is that the Osage natives over the last several decades came into like just massive fucking wealth because they found oil on the land that they purchased out in Oklahoma. And over the course of the film, we see the unraveling of a murderous conspiracy targeting those natives. And in the interim of those conspiratorial machinations, we see the evolving relationship between Ernest and an Osage woman by the name of Molly Kyle. And that's like the nice, easy way to describe this 3.5 hour long movie. So
I hate to admit that this movie really does feel like it needs to be as long as it is. I hate how well paced it is because it's so long, but it fucking justifies it, and I'm like, God damn it.
That was one of the funny things upon finishing this movie, because Bridget says, like, it's a good movie, but, like, it's too fucking long. They gotta trim the fat. And I had to say, like, there's no fat. There's no fat on these bones. Like, everything in this movie is very necessary, I would argue.
I also feel like when we're talking about something like the slow, degrading, horrid world of genocide that is still in its very efforts going on to this day, you need to have a long and drawn-out, like, painful realization of this playing out and show just the horrid and acrid reality of being put under, like, what that does to an entire people. Like, it requires more time to talk about, you know?
Sure. Well,
to address these issues. To throw that away in, like, a 1.5 to 2 hour movie wouldn't do it justice at all. Even if you could make that one story shorter, like, it doesn't... Well, I don't know. I feel like if anything about genocide needs to be long and grueling for you to look at it and go, yeah...
I mean,
this sure happened, didn't it?
You get into not only the content of, like, what happened in there, but also you just look at the general, like, filmography of Martin Scorsese.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say that approach is one of his core strengths.
Sure.
Is he makes long fucking movies a lot of the time, but it's because he wants you to, like, kind of stew and marinate in the criminal elements of these things. Like, just let that shit, like, kind of seep into you before you get anything close to, like, a release or resolution.
Absolutely.
Before the end of it.
And that's true, because, like, that's what I'm saying, is, like, if
that's
you're talking
cool.
about...
Where's
like,
the release?
We'll get to the ending when we get to the ending.
Yeah.
I think this film, like... I would argue this film has a better release to it than probably any of his other ones that I have seen that operate in, like, a similar playing field. At least in my opinion. Did you have that?
I did, yeah. The point I was trying to make, though, was that, like, there is such a, like... The reason that, you know, with any other film that's paced really well, you can go, wow, I could hardly tell it was that long. It is perfectly paced, but because that message needs you to seep in, like, just the hideous poison of the actions that are taking place that allow you the time to breathe in what's happening, that makes it feel longer. Like, that makes this film seem longer. It's so perfectly portraying just how disgusting the actions taken against the Osage are. And it's like... Fuck, man, like, it sucks and it hurts and it's genius. And I can't stop watching it.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah, and, like, I think it's, like... it's one of those things that makes me, like... It's 3.5 hours because it's like it needs that amount of time, but also like it's still like one because as Jay mentioned earlier, we're recording this like basically the day after we all watched it, and so I wasn't able to do like this movie. Like I either want to like, you know, come in hot, like deliver like, you know, impressions based on like a fresh viewing of it, or like read about like the subject of the movie for like a year and then talk about it, because it's just like there's so much to this. And like
there really is. And
so like the limited amount of time I had to read about it, I tried to read about the reception of the film like among like various indigenous just film viewers, critics, like academics, whatever. And like I think one of the things that like one of the criticisms they had of it that like I think is pretty well founded is that like, not to suggest that whether or not I think is well founded means anything in the context. Well, like we all understand that it's for white people talking about Native issues here. But like the film like still doesn't like it still lacks some of the historical context, because it's like the way that the federal government is positioned is a little weird, because like the film is adapted from a book that is primarily about like the early days of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, with the Osage murders being kind of like the place where that all happens.
Like not to cut in, but like it's based on a nonfiction novel of the same name written by David Grand. Like essentially it's more of a just general true crime like recounting of, like Evie was saying, the origins of the FBI, and it's told more from the perspective of I believe the character's name is Tom White, basically the Jesse Plemons character, who isn't introduced until like 2 hours into the movie that we watch. And I have my own opinions about that decision to like put that more to the side, but I'll let you finish what you were trying to get across there, Evie.
Yeah, and like so it's kind of like the federal government is like it's sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Is sort of like not tentative, but like hesitant to get involved in the Osage. But eventually, like some good guys come in from Hoover's FBI, and like they get down to business. But like the thing that's not really explored in the movie is that like the whole like the sort of conditions under which like the sort of like allotment system under which like Osage land was sort of distributed to individual families, like that's an invention of the federal government. Like that was pressure from them that got that whole thing started, and like sort of like broke that, sort of like weakened the solidarity among the tribe, I guess, potentially, and sort of paved the way for what we see in the film. And it's like, but it's also like, where do you put that? Like in a movie?
Yeah. I feel like they very much did the best they could in like trying to contextualize like the federal government's involvement, because you have, you know, just how late they come into the movie in general. Like that in and of itself feels hyper intentional, and especially like once they do come into town, you see Jesse Plemons' character have like a meeting with the like chiefs of like the major families, and they essentially say like, oh, did you actually come to help because we paid like $20,000 for you to help us, or because a white guy got killed and that's why you finally decided that this was a like national concern?
Yeah,
like I think it does what it can to kind of to ground that complicity of the US government in these acts that are happening in the movie. It doesn't do the best job, but again, in a 3.5 hour long film where its emotional core is more centered around like just two or three key players and how everything sprawls out from there, you can only do so much.
Yeah,
really.
And it can be true both that like, you know, they did like it can be true that the best that they could do is still limited in certain ways.
Sure. Totally. You also have those like little sprinklings from despite him being the most evil fucking person I've seen in movies in a very long time, you have those sprinklings later on in the film of King Hale being like, oh, of course the government says they're gonna do that. Like you can tell that in this community there is that distrust of that pre-established distrust of the federal government. I feel like probably the best way for us to talk about this movie will probably be going more by the key characters more than anything. Like those three main players are like the big pivot points in this film. You have Ernest Burkhart, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. You have Molly Kyle, played by Lily Gladstone, who is stupendous in this movie. She is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like her handling of that character is such a like quiet strength and dignity to her that I don't know about everyone else, but every time she is on screen, I feel fucking gripped.
No,
like
same.
I am in that shit.
She's such a brilliant character.
Yeah. And then you have, as I've mentioned, William King Hale, played by Robert De Niro, just the most evil motherfucker under the guise of like a kindly grandpa figure. Like, and my question that I pose to you all is, how early on did you have the read of him being like just the worst person? Like the worst human being imaginable?
Oh, it's inherent to the movie. Like he's a guy who is like wrapped up in he is positioned like immediately as like the guy who is, you know, a guy who is like all up in them guts of the exploitation of the Osage, like in this area,
yeah,
he's immediately a piece of shit.
Yeah, literally, he is the first one of the first scenes you hit him. He's like, "Hey, remember when you called me king? You can call me
uncle, or you can call me king, like you used to." Like,
for how much he like takes the immediate brunt of like, please let me answer for all of these people. I'm one of them. This white guy.
I find it interesting because looking at this movie in the like cultural context of the time and place that it takes place in, where like this is gonna sound weird to say, like everyone was just fucking racist. back then.
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
just super fucking racist. So, inherently, I don't know if it's just me. I don't want to say I give characters the benefit of the doubt on the quality of them in the play that we are watching before us. But, like, for me, I kind of give them a little bit of a breadth before making that judgment call.
Well, like, but
The
also, like,
time
early
period
on-
is racist until proven otherwise.
but also, like, early on, like, he makes a point of saying that he is, like, the deputy sheriff. And also, we are immediately introduced, like, this string of, like, dubious deaths of which there was no investigation. Like,
How those are shot.
Fuck me. Like,
Oh, there's definitely shooting in them.
Yeah.
all of the, I guess I don't want to so quickly move away from my point.
We'll come back to that.
It's a pretty tight bow. I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say, like, I had to read pretty early on that he was a piece of shit, like, just because of that effect of cutting from him, like, delivering his whole spiel to Ernest to that guy writhing dead on the floor from, one can only assume, poison.
Yeah.
That he is connected to this in some way or another. But my main reason I want to highlight that is because I feel like you kind of want to, part of playing in this movie's, like, wheelhouse and taking it on its terms kind of involves having to fall in line with how Ernest would allow himself to get wrapped up in these machinations of King Hale.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of have to play dumb in a weird sense to fall in line with that line of thinking.
And I guess that, like, I was kind of on there, but I think once it got to, like, the first, like, the scene where they're at the festival, you know, and, like, you know, the couple are getting to know each other, he's talking again for, you know, kind of on behalf of all of the people that he is not. You know, this old evil man is going on this very still one note kind of like, this is my thing, and just, like, I'm getting a little suspicious.
Sure.
I'm starting to go, like, what's up with this guy? What's going on with this?
But no, yeah, so
Yeah.
you have him delivering his shit to
Sure.
Ernest, just being like, gonna hook you up with the job. I run shit around here. I'll take care of you. Immediately cut to just a string of mysterious deaths among the Osage people, like, and all of them dying. No investigation. You get this nice long string of these just bodies, like, motionless in bed. And then suddenly you have a shot in front of a house of a lady, like, putting her baby into a carriage, and you see a hand, like, pop out of a window with a gun, almost Looney Tunes style, and just shoot her right in the fucking chest. Just absolutely brutal and barren display of violence.
and then he runs off with the baby that
Yeah,
she
he
has.
steals the baby
Yeah.
too.
Just fucked, which is one of those things that I really want to harp on, because I think in the filmography of Scorsese, it's really important to note that basically up until this point, in any of his, like, crime movies, there is a level of, like, bombast to all of the violence.
Even the
That
evil is, like, glorified in its shots.
I don't want to say
Like-
glorified, but it's made to be more entertaining.
Yeah, which
like,
kind of gives it that level of gravitas, I think, at least, that, like, you're giving this too much levity, like, too much character. Like, this
Sure.
is just heartless fucking murder.
and that's part of, like, what I want to say about this film is, like, it forgoes so many, like, Scorsese-isms that we are all used to if you watch his movies. Like, the violence is one. What was the one that you were talking about last night, Evie?
Oh yeah, like I thought the music was, like, always, like, on the verge of, like, dropping into the beginning of The Chain by Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, like, you expect these like ironic like needle drops to hit in the same way that they do in like all of his crime movies, and it never does. Like you get like old folksy like bluesy like needle drops, but it's not something that like you hear as a moviegoer.
I don't think
like,
I've ever seen a Martin Scorsese film besides this one.
You've seen Goodfellas.
Oh, yeah.
That's Scorsese.
Okay, I would have seen that.
Slightly more dramatic murders in that one. But I think that is the beautiful thing, though. Like, how it shows because of his backlog, how these murders were shot. It just, like, these hardly any panning, just camera on it, one scene, brutal murders, and then these people just walk off. Even throughout the film, as it happens more, they don't do anything to make this dynamic. It's just fucking bullet in the fucking head or chest of one of these people and just being betrayed and then walking off. And it's just, you have to shoot it like that to get across like just how heartlessly like on the fucking table these murders are, where it's just like, well, you know,
yeah,
it's just so,
it's fucking awful.
Yeah,
like it's really hard to see,
and it should be.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about how that was shot, is just like it gets that across. Like there's nothing
glamorous about
nothing
this.
glamorous,
like,
nothing bombastic, as you say.
The closest thing to glamour that we have in this movie are the Osage people.
Yeah.
Because they have come into such wealth. Like, they are the ones who are, like, wearing fancy jewelry. They got, like, nice houses and everything. Like, they make it a point early on that you see, like... Unfortunately, Ernest kind of shows his hat a bit early of being a kind of greedy piece of shit, because his brother, and another person like end up like with potato sacks over their heads and holes cut out. Like,
yeah, they fucking mug some people.
Yeah. And despite them being like, this is a ring my father gave me, like, please don't do this, and they're like, don't give a damn, don't want the car, just want the jewels. And then they immediately turn around and bet Ernest does, bet all of those jewels on a shitty poker game
and lose.
Yep. Like, which that's a good pre-establishing moment for Ernest as being a greedy motherfucker. And he even says in that first conversation with King Hale, when asked about like the types of women that he likes, he says like, "Oh, I'm greedy. I like all kinds." Like, so you get that up front, but again, it comes across very early on that Ernest is just kind of stupid. Like, he's just kind of dumb.
Yeah,
but he also like he has no he has no awareness of how dumb he does not know what he doesn't know. So he's just like, I'm not stupid. Like, I'm not thinking I'm like, he's like,
that's well written stupidity.
No, yeah, that's my favorite thing about that character is he does not realize how much of a fucking doofus he is. Like, that's kind of why I wanted to highlight just how much King Hale as a character tries to mask his absolute like vileness. Like, he has that facade of like a kindly grandpa, but during every single conversation he is just peppering in these like little things that, like, if you have an ear for dog whistles, you're like, no, I do not trust this. Like, from the very beginning, like, one of the first things he's talking about is like how, you know, the time of the Osage will eventually pass. Like, that's like up front, right? That's in that first conversation. And like,
and he talks about like them being like sickly,
yeah, sickly.
And like it just like he's like, basically anytime he's talking to someone who's like in his like sphere of influence, like, you can hear how manipulative he is.
Oh yeah,
and
he's
like,
planting the seeds of manipulation
AKA
everywhere.
Anyone who is not the Osage. Like, pretty much anybody he talks to, he's either trying to be...
He's doing it to the Osage, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you have the conversation with Minnie. one of the sisters of Molly, while she's still alive, she's married to a guy by the name of Bill Smith, who we'll talk about a little bit later. She seems to be like suffering from wasting illness, which apparently is an actual thing. Like I had to look it up during the course of like watching this movie just to be sure that this wasn't like something that they just didn't know what was happening, and there was actually some deeper conspiracy stuff going on. Like, King Hale is such a manipulative piece of shit that there were multiple times in this movie where I'm like, I don't know that person actually died of natural causes. Yeah. I think that person might have just...
Yeah, she might have just been murdered, but like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are, unfortunately, just some actual natural deaths in this movie. Mm-hmm. But no, yeah, he's talking to her, and he's like...
Unfortunately...
that's a poor way of phrasing it. I'm sorry.
As opposed to the fortunate way the other people were murdered.
We missed out on a murder.
I guess that's fortunate for King Hale that they were murdered. Anyways, that's all besides the point. But like in that conversation with Minnie, you can tell that he's like trying to size up the situation and like try to get her to come to him instead of continuing to rely on Bill Smith. You have the conversation with like Henry Rowan, who he treats like his best friend, multiple times says like, that man is one of my best friends. Yeah. He owes me $25,000. Yeah. Oh my God. But like,
and like and you find out that like he has a $25,000 fucking, he has like a life insurance plan on the guy. It's just like, oh my God. All
those pieces falling together.
A massive piece of shit.
Yeah.
Any talk he's having is pretty much always transactional. There's no... If he's talking to somebody, he's either doing it for either something down the road or like it's all to go into him.
Let me set you up with something.
Yeah, I guess... To start talking about some other... Like, that's the... King Hale is such a fucking fascinating villain of a character that it's hard for me to not just get laser focused in on him before diving into the other characters. But
we're gonna do our best.
Speaking of getting set up with things, Ernest becomes a driver, like, around town, and he gets a regular client in Molly Kyle, who is this Osage woman, part of a family, like... There's a mother, and I believe at the beginning of the movie, it's 4 daughters, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yes. But yeah, so he's driving around town. They're having like fun conversation. Found out in like watching like interviews with Scorsese that like that first conversation that they have where like he's bringing up that like she had a previous like relationship with some other white guy around town or something like that, and she's like, you talk too much, like you never shut up. I said you talk too much,
homeboy, you never shut up.
And she starts like shit talking him in Osage, and he's like, I don't know what you said, but it sounded, I bet it was Indian for a handsome devil. And she laughs, and apparently that was improv. That was just Leo saying that and her like kind of naturally laughing.
You gotta love those natural scene captures where it's just like, oh man.
I don't know how everyone else feels about the relationship between Ernest and Molly, but that's one of those points of the film that like on first viewing, their chemistry didn't quite click with me. Mm-hmm. But like the more times I've watched it, the more it's like, no, there is something there between them. Like it's hard to see in like a modern context where like, you know, you don't have people talking for like a month and then the guy saying like, you're gonna marry me. Like you don't really have that kind of thing anymore.
Like she knows up front too that like literally he's trying to marry her because old uncle said that, oh, you...
She doesn't know that part up front.
She knows like, that he wants her money.
Yeah, yes, she knows that. She knows but that. He keeps asking about it.
But here's the thing. There's a difference between her knowing that he wants the money and the conspiratorial side of things, because they make it a point of that conversation between all the sisters. Like, one of them brings up, like, no, yeah, you know, they just want you for your money, right? And she's like, I mean, of course he wants my money. Like, all these fucking white people want our money. Like, we're unknowingly wealthy in the context of the early 20th century. Of course they want to live like a good life. But like, she highlights,
at least this
like,
guy just wants to chill.
Yeah, this guy like has vibes with me.
Yeah.
He's not restless, which I don't know if I believe that, because one of my favorite like early establishing moments with them in their relationship is she invites him in for dinner, and they like have a smoke together and a drink together, and at a certain point it starts like storming outside, and he goes to like close the window, and she's like, no, leave that shit open, like we need to just sit in the quiet for a little bit.
Hell yeah.
Which feels like such a Scorsese move, like in his old age. Like, when you hear like the ways that he's kind of like poked at big budget like Hollywood stuff now, where it's all very like consumable, like it's just kind of
Quippy.
not even quippy, but like just very in one ear right out the other type of entertainment. That feels like him very much taking a shot and being like, no, just fucking sit in this moment right now. Don't be restless. You don't need to drink or anything. Just sit here with me and take in what we are experiencing in this exact moment.
Yeah, she says that the storm is powerful.
Yes.
And
which
like,
I get.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, you're good. Go ahead, Evie.
Yeah, like when she said that he's not restless, I figured that meant in the sense of like, this guy's not going to try to like sleep around with other women or anything like that.
Fair.
Like
That's from. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, that's basically what I meant. Like that's what I took her to me, and like that, like with that in mind, like that makes like their relationship makes sense to me.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, and that's part of what makes the tragedy like all the more palpable, and why I'm really glad that they steered away from the FBI side of the whole thing for so long.
That movie would have been intolerable. Like,
yeah, it would have been boring. Yeah. Like, it would have just been a fucking like true crime thing, and it would have felt even more exploitative of like the tragedy that this community went through. But instead, you just fucking sit with this couple, and specifically like the actual like Osage woman, as she sees like her whole fucking family die around her, and just what that does to her emotionally. Like, that's what makes it so goddamn tragic, is not only is she like seeing all of her family die, all the people in her community die, like as they are overtaken by like the colonial forces, like late colonial forces trying to take over this land, like the new American greed trying to destroy what they have gotten over time. But also, like, she herself ends up slowly getting like the life sapped from her effectively in the latter chunk of this movie, because I'm trying to think of what like where the exact turning point is for Ernest, where he goes from simply like just kind of being more of like a nameless stooge for King Hale, and more like, no, you are now my gopher who's setting up these murders. I want to say the first time you really get that is when they try to get him to get Blackie to do the Bill and Rita job. But yeah, that's like the moment that it finally like kind of turns, and it's like, no, you are now involved in this. You are not simply, here while it's happening.
Yeah, like you are specifically setting up the murder of your in-laws. Like this, like you're in it now. Like,
and the fascinating thing about Ernest's character is you can tell that he does not want to be in it. Like, that, it feels like that's where he finally is starting to smarten up as well. Like, he is stupid, but he has enough of a conscience that he still wants to, like, separate himself from those things. Like, he's given the job from King Hale to set up the murder of Bill and Rita Smith, but, like, to try and coerce the person into doing the job instead of just saying, like, hey, you're going to do this job. He says, like, I'll give you this, like, fucking, like, insurance fraud thing that we can both make some money on, and then, you know, we'll work out what the job is.
I do think, like I wouldn't say that he doesn't necessarily, like, he's formed, like, a rationalization as to why he needs to be involved in this, and, like, that's what allows him to go along with it for so long. Like
he doesn't really feel like, he feels some regret later, but, like,
yeah, once everything started fucking falling apart. But, like,
it's not like he's pretty.
I don't know if I agree with that, because, like, for me, one of the most illuminating moments in that movie that, like, really kind of drills down into, like, the theme of complicity in it is when he's given the task of hiring someone to do the Henry Rowan job. Like, he gets John Ramsey, this poor guy that gets recruited for, like, multiple jobs throughout the thing, and you can tell he's more on his face, like, I don't want to do this shit anymore, man.
Yeah.
Like, but
you go ahead. I'll talk about John Ramsey in a minute.
No, it's all good. But yeah, he's given the job to, like, set up the Henry Rowan murder, and, you know, John Ramsey, like, is supposed to just go out there and fucking kill him. Instead, he starts drinking together with Henry Rowan. They're having a good time, and, like, it takes, like, however long it does, probably at least, like, a couple of weeks before he finally, like, drums up the courage to shoot him. And even when he can shoot him, he can't even bring himself to shoot the guy in the front,
like, the way he is, he's supposed to. Like,
yeah, the way he's supposed to do the murder. Mm. But the thing that really illuminates, like, the way that I interpret Ernest's character more is, like, John Ramsey comes back into, like, the billiard hall where they usually hang out in, and just hands the gun back to Leo and says, here, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's, like, the first time that it feels like Ernest's character is, like, properly confronted with the consequences of these murders. Like, he is given that gun because he may not have pulled the trigger, but he gave the gun that was necessary to pull the trigger. And it does not seem like a thing that he is happy about. Like, he's trying to be like,
well, he doesn't want the evidence. You don't want to hold.
He doesn't want the murder weapon. But also, like, I get what you're saying, but also, like, he's also, like a massive moral coward, because we see the whole thing where, like, the moment where it comes to, like he will only, like, as soon as he is like when Molly confronts him about her injections at the end of the movie, like, even when directly confronted with it, he cannot bring himself to own up to what he did. Like
it's a fair point. I guess it's just my my reading of any character that is a moral coward is that even if they can't bring themselves to confess to those things, the fact that they are a moral coward specifically, like they have that fear at all, points to some existence of a conscience there. Like, even if they cannot act on that conscience, it's there. Like, versus someone like King Hale, who, up until the very end, basically is just acting like, I didn't fucking do anything wrong.
Oh, yeah,
what
he
did
never
I do?
drops mask.
Like, the whole time, he is just like, no, King Hale is manifest destiny fucking incarnate.
Yeah.
Like, that is something that, like, fully properly clicked in for me, like, last night when I was thinking about it, because
That's
literally
a really good take.
Another interesting thing about this movie is its, like, very light plays of religion in there. Like, early on in the relationship between Ernest and Molly, she asks him, what's your religion? Because she is like a practicing Catholic. Like, she is going to church every Sunday, and she has not seen Ernest at that. And he tries to say that he's Catholic, and she's like, I don't see you there. And then you have King Hale, who is like literally a reverend. Like, he has the title of reverend, and he is constantly talking about like how the Osage people are like the most beautiful people on God's green earth, but their time is over. That's like a direct quote from him. And that is actual manifest destiny bullshit. That is him being like, no, like, you had your time. It is our time now. So it's clearly you have to die. Like, you have to pass along and pull your wealth over to our side.
And I admit, that didn't fully capture for me in my mind until the second viewing, where that does so clearly, like, you know, just like, man, he just says that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's fucked up. Outright. Like, there's nothing to mistake at that point.
Oh,
Like,
my
oh
God.
my god. You son of a bitch.
Yeah, like the... Oh, go ahead.
That's all I had. You're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like the one of Brendan Fraser's two scenes in this movie where where they're like at the Masonic Lodge, and like they're trying to coach.
Oh, God.
I forgot his fucking name.
Ernest.
And they're trying to coach Ernest, and like all of these business guys are just there for some reason, or it's just like this. That's a
Oil
scene that's
tycoons.
just like don't get it twisted. This is what it's all about. Like, it's all about like taking the material wealth of the Osage and putting it in the hands of white hegemony.
White America. Yeah.
It's very
Like-
funny to me they got Brendan Fraser for this.
It's great.
The man got range.
Oh, Brendan Fraser is actually great.
He's a good actor.
I don't know if you know, but the reason why he wasn't in things for years is because he had severe depression.
He was there was some really bad casting couch stuff that happened with him, and he got blackballed as a result of it, on top of like the toll that like the stunt work that he was involved with, it took the toll it took on his body was really brutal. And so like he was eventually like he was just out for a good long time.
Yeah.
I feel the depression. I mean, I am a person with lifelong dealing with that.
Which
so
is
I
why
believe I
it's
had
funny
heard
that
about
he's given this role where he's just like a yelling.
yelling thumb.
Corrupt attorney.
Yeah.
Like,
I have not had a chance to talk with my client.
Ernest is just like, I don't fucking know who this guy is, but I guess I gotta go with him.
Like the way he's shot is like it's just suddenly like this mountain is yelling at you. It's just it's pretty incredible.
This wall. Yeah.
But to return back to that scene at the Masonic Lodge, like, yeah, they lay up out front like, no, hi, Ernest, here are oil executives. Like, pleased to meet ya. Like, just laying bare that. And I kind of returning back to Scorsese's filmography, this one feels like the one that most lays bare something that has to be like just a point of fascination for the man, because he's always centered like American crime. And you have to imagine that he just finds it fascinating how our socioeconomic systems that we live in America have bred these very specific kinds of criminals over time, or like led to these like heinous actions over the course of the 20th century, and how it is transformed also. Like, that's what makes this movie so hard to watch versus something like Wolf of Wall Street. Like, Wolf of Wall Street is like very present day glitz and glamour, very high crime where like no one is getting like killed or anything, and this one just fucking strips all of that away. You have nothing.
Literally strips the flesh from the bones.
Oh god, a scene that you could not watch where so over the course of the film, as I've hinted at before, we get to see Molly Kyle's family just get utterly devastated, like just completely destroyed. And one of the ways that they get destroyed is one of the daughters gets just shot in the head, just taken out into the center of a valley and capped in the side of the head. And you have these
the scene where they show her, like the scene where they show her murder is just, it's so fucked, because like she is like joking about them killing her like right before they kill her, and it's just, and like they got her so drunk that she's like she can't do it. Like
she can't
like,
sit up.
Yeah. And it's just like,
and it's all done matter of factly. It's not like both of the guys are just like, oh, get up here.
We're not gonna kill you. Just sit her upright. Like, get her there. You just sit her, and just like the guy who is on trial as he's recounting this murder, they just let her fall onto the ground and put the gun in her hand, and that's it. Like, I mean, the thing that makes that scene even more disgusting is they tell it backwards. Like, they start, because basically one can guess that, you know, the way we're talking about this film, it ends up, all these crimes eventually end up going to court. They get one guy on testimony by the name of Kelsey Morrison, who his arrest is fantastic, but we can discuss that in a moment. But he's basically the one who's like, oh yeah, I'll sing like a fucking bird if you're gonna offer me any kind of deal.
Yeah, like all the scenes where they manage to pull in like the ancillary criminals who are involved in this thing, it's great, because they all are just like, nah, fuck these guys.
The keynote is the criminals that are not killed.
Yes.
Yeah,
again, to tie up loose ends, so to say.
Because he has another job for you.
Yeah. God. But it's told backwards because, you know, he recounts the whole story, and he finishes off the story by saying like, oh, so this is what I did after we killed her, and this is what Byron, who was the other person that was with me, did. He went back to Molly Kyle's place and just went to bed. So it then flashes back to Byron getting home from the job, going out to sleep on the bed, and Molly even like giving him a pillow to like rest his head on, just being like, hey, here you go. And then it goes back further to where the murder happens. So you get to see like just the way that the evil has like seeped itself into like the very fabric of these people's like everyday lives. Like the call is coming from inside the house. Like it is right there with you. You get that. And like, if anything, Scorsese kind of just lays it out like super early, not only in the conversations, but you have that great scene early on where like King Hale gives Ernest like the book on the Osage, and like you see Ernest like reading through it, and he flips to like a picture that is like the point of view of wolves looking at some like Osage people, with the caption underneath it saying, "Can you find the wolves in this picture?" Like it is literally challenging you, the viewer, to like keep an eye out.
I had not even considered that.
It's him! It's the Wolf of Wall Street!
There he is.
Like, it is literally telling you, like, no, yeah, you might know, like, the clear ones in this photo, but can you spot all the other wolves? And then you get to that scene in the Masonic Lodge that Evie was talking about later on in the film, where it's like, no, all these fucking white people are
all
wolves.
these guys.
Like, all of them. Like, the close family, the guy that was handling, like, Molly Kyle's allotment, the doctors in town, the oil executives, the sheriff, like, they are all fucking in on this shit. But the other thing that picture book thing is also implying is by putting you in the point of view of that, you are also one of the wolves in this picture, which I think is a very important thing for us to acknowledge as a bunch of white women talking about this film that is about the, just, let's be real about it, the attempted genocide of a native people in America. Like, it's important to talk about complicity, and I feel like that is the major theme of what this fucking movie is about. This is a film about complicity, because you gotta consider Ernest never murders with his bare hands one of the Osage people.
That's true.
He does not commit a single act of, like, physical violence against them. The only acts of violence that he commits are against, like, white people that are working for those like native people.
Sure.
Like, he kills the like private investigator that Molly hired. And he sets up all these other murders, but
he does poison his wife.
But he doesn't kill her. And the fact of the matter is, towards the end of the film, even he, being as thick as he is, basically realizes what the fuck it is that he's truly doing to her, because you have this great scene where, like, King Hale, because he didn't get his payout on the Henry Rowan insurance thing, took out a fire insurance policy on his farm and just had hired people to burn his farm so he could get that insurance money instead. And while that fire is burning, like, we see Ernest going through the act of giving Molly her insulin, because something that we haven't talked about yet is Molly has diabetes. Probably a fairly severe case of it, because, like, it's commented on multiple times that she is sickly. Like, she's not super physically strong. But the catch is that the doctors in town, because they're fucking wolves, basically gave Ernest a vial of insulin and a vial of some kind of poison and said, oh yeah, just put this in there and put that whole vial in there and then give her a shot. It's just gonna slow her down a bit. It's just gonna slow her down. Like, they keep emphasizing that, like, trying to convince him, like, you're not gonna kill her.
Yeah,
there's no way it's gonna kill her. It's just gonna make her a little bit weak, make it harder for her. But, like, you can see, like, basically as soon as it starts to become apparent that he's putting that stuff in the poison, like, you get a smash cut to her, like, in the church looking like she is on death's door, like, in terms of just being out of it. But anyways, returning to the scene I was talking about, like, he's starting to, like, dump the poison into the insulin, and he stops halfway through and is like, fuck this, puts the rest of the poison into his whiskey that he's drinking, and, like, basically they share in that pain together. And that's kind of what ends up it doesn't really end up being the turning point because he kind of resists arrest
Yeah.
still when he gets arrested in like the next scene. But you can kind of tell that's where the empathy finally starts kicking in, and he's realizing like, oh, this is what I've been doing to my wife.
Yeah.
I need to be there for my family. And how he eventually part of why he eventually ends up cracking in the interrogations done by the FBI. So I'm trying to remember where I started off on that train of thought. So
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think like just to talk about some of the like performances and stuff. I think like the I really love the scene where, or like, basically anytime the two like tribal elders are talking, like, I love those guys. Like they make like the speech that the one elder gives like while they're like at that meet is just like it's like I think you could, like, if you want to nitpick or like someone could point at that and say like, look, the delivery is not that, but like you could tell it's like it feels so raw and real. Like he really, like, both of those guys make an entire meal out of every single line that they're given, and like and like their scenes are really impactful as a result.
Scorsese talks about in some interviews that he had during the run of this movie or lead up to this movie, where it's like those were just people in the community that were on the set of the film, and he heard them going off as just like, no, let's do that again, and we're just going to run it. And like, yeah, like, I 100% agree with you, Evie. Like, it feels a little bit stilted in terms of delivery, but like, it fucking works.
Yeah,
like,
it's so powerful.
In one of the most interesting things whenever you take non-actors and put them into like a proper like role to be on camera is, although they don't have like the technical chops they maybe need to have, by them being not having gone through that, they sometimes give more honest or raw performances. Like, that's part of why, to talk about video games for a second here, you look at something like Silent Hill 2. Like, all the voice actors in that video game were just fucking people that they like kind of pulled in and were like, hey, you kind of fit for this character that we're trying to make. Can you come in here and read these lines? And it works. It just works.
And I also think that any amount of like, if I'm really prying through it, trying to look for where there might be any kind of like too dead on or too stiltedness, or that these are, you know, not traditionally, you know, long-standing actors, I think that because of the, like, you know, the second language being English for them and that cultural divide, anything that even kind of ghosts in that, you don't really read that. Mm-hmm. Like, you just read this as like, man, they're really owning this scene right now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just so good. They're all so fucking amazing. Like, just incredible acting.
Have we talked about how this movie is a hoot?
Do you mean the owls that are featured in
yes.
it?
There are a couple of owls featured in the movie that are like owls. Harbingers of death.
Yep.
Yes, like Lizzie Q, the mother of the Kyle family, mentions early on in the movie that she like sees an owl in a vision, and usually owl denotes that we are dying. And shortly after that is when Anna gets killed. And then shortly before Lizzie Q dies, she sees an owl again. In one of the next scenes, you see she passes away. And Molly, as we're probably going to talk about the same thing, but Molly, while she is being poisoned with the like tainted insulin, eventually sees an owl walking into her doorframe. And there's another scene while she's in that state. I'm wondering what your reads of it are when she sees what she thinks is King Hale. Do you think that he is really there? That's one of those scenes that I have still not quite put together. I have a little bit of a read of it, but I'm not sure.
I think he is. Like, yeah, like I mean, like, it's something that I think, like, yeah, I think he's real in that instant. But also, like, I actually was going to talk about one last thing about the elders.
Oh, sure, go for it.
That the one elder mentions, like, fighting in the Boxer Rebellion, which I think is a really interesting pull to make. Just, like, talking about how, like, he was instrumentalized to sort of, like, serve American imperialism, like, in, like, against, like, a different populace, like, far off from, where he lives. But, like, it's like it adds to, like, it like, it's all just so fucking horrible. Like, it's just like you do feel this is a film that really makes you feel the sins of this goddamn country. And
Yes.
I feel like that's to its merit. That's to its credit.
Oh, 100%. Part of me thinks that he is not there, and go ahead and call me on my bullshit if you think this is reading way too much into it. Do you think that Robert De Niro in this movie looks a bit like an owl?
Well, with the eyewear especially, kind of.
I can see that. I can see that as like a deliberate sort of,
Like, especially with him being such a harbinger of death, like
how he replaces the owl in her mind with the harbinger of death is why I think he's not there, but he becomes, like, her seeing that, basically, as he becomes that vision.
Like, that's
like,
one that was a reading that hit me more last night when we were watching it. I was like, I wonder if that's what that's supposed to be more so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have to. Yeah, I can see that as like I forget where exactly that is in the film, but, like, I can see it as, like, this is, like, where we see the, like, we see her, like, actually, like, turning on Hale specifically.
Mentally turning on Hale. Which, to return to Hale, he really is one of the most disgusting fucking motherfuckers imaginable in that movie. Something that clicked with me a bit more this time around is when Ernest and Molly confide in him that they're pregnant with child. That motherfucker is not happy about it.
Oh yeah, he is, like, upset about it. He is, like, you can tell that he is, for whatever reason, like, it throws like, it is.
I mean, what the reason is the real disgusting part, is because if they have a child, that means the head rights are probably more likely going to go to the child.
Yeah.
And not to Ernest.
Mm-hmm.
And odds are, like, this is part of the other disgusting thing, is they have that moment early on with Anna while she's, like, before she gets killed, where, like, there's the idea that she might be pregnant.
Oh yeah.
They find out afterwards that she was pregnant when she died, and it was probably Byron's. Did they kill her because she was going to have a child?
I guess,
like, out of wedlock.
I think maybe.
Like,
I think that makes sense, because, like, otherwise, like, you don't see a reason for, like, for them to acutely, like, kill her.
To kill her like that, yeah.
Let's talk about the guy trying to adopt a couple of the Osage children.
Oh yeah,
And then kill him.
We laugh because it's just like, It's so comic. It's just like so ridiculously evil that you couldn't.
Yeah, just
like.
on its face entirely. Like, this is the worst kind of person.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man? Like, no remorse at all. He is clearly trying to adopt these kids, make sure they have the rights, so he can essentially... He's implicating himself in that. I kind of want to kill these kids and take them. And it's like, what are you doing?
I forget
You
which
asshole.
awful thing Hale was doing, but he said, "Oh, perfectly legal. It's perfectly legal."
Oh yeah, that's when he's talking about like where he's initially reading Ernest in on the plan to like move all the head rights into the family, like eventually like move them out of custody of Lizzie Q and her daughters to where they can control it. And he couches it in sort of like, well, you know, they're all not going to make it because like these Osage women don't live past 50 or whatever.
Yeah, they're sickly people, you know.
Planting that seed.
Oh my god, you want to talk about fucking planting a seed? I could talk about King Hale for like the entire length of this podcast because there's
please
so...
don't, because he's just so disgusting. I don't want to put too much attention on this guy.
But there's one more moment that I need to like hone in on.
Let's hear it.
It's shortly before like they want to make the move on Henry Rowan. It's when he's like first telling Ernest about like the insurance policy that he has on him. And he reveals to Ernest, like, oh, did you know that guy on the floor there was Molly's first husband?
Like, oh, by the way.
Yeah, like, so in the conversation, he's couching it in this idea of like, well, you know, she gets to have her secrets because she never told you about this. And, you know, you can have your secrets and that's okay.
My secrets.
But... but
let me give you the tools to further rationalize all the horrible shit you're doing.
Exactly.
Your wife didn't tell you this one thing. On the other hand, you've murdered a bunch of people.
But it's not simply the murdering a bunch of people. I feel like that is him sowing the seeds for eventually doing what he has Ernest do to Molly. And that's what makes that shit truly fucking disgusting. Yeah. Like, that's why, like, I start, like, going into full conspiracy brain mode about, like, was he fucking orchestrating every fucking death that happened in this movie? Because everything he says is so manipulative. It's just absolutely wild.
Hale at his core is effectively... you know, a mob boss. He runs the entire town. He, like, basically all he wants is for his riches to get richer. That is all he gives a shit about.
Mm-hmm. And what would we say? Oh, the thing that I guess just for the sake of not having this podcast like go on forever, because this feels like such a dense movie that I feel like we could keep finding these small little moments in there to pick apart. But I guess to try and fast track us to the ending, the thing that finally like kind of unravels everything with the plan is essentially... Wait.
There is one thing. I just want to know, like, the motherfucker just goes up to Ernest is like, hey, can you sign this?
Yeah,
it's like,
sign these papers.
Are you gonna, you know, he effectively says, are you gonna kill me?
Well, no, the thought Ernest has more is that he's going to get, like, arrested and sent to prison. Yeah. That's more of his concern than being killed. Like, he keeps being like, well, be arrested? Why is that going to happen? And yeah, like you're saying, like, Hale basically just manipulates him into, like, signing away his life so
he's
that
like,
he can...
Just so it's in the family. It's just like Fast and the Furious. This movie is about family.
Oh, God, it is.
You know, your brother Byron signed these papers. Byron's giving him the side eyes, like, yeah, sure, I signed those papers. Like, oh god,
the reveal at the end that Ernest just like shacks up with Byron at the like after he's out of prison at the end of his life is just like, you stupid piece of shit. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
yeah. The man who is arguably the second most evil person in this film, fucking Byron. But yeah, so all of the plans basically end up getting unraveled because some kindly old man in town saw the, not the murder itself, but saw that Byron like took Anna to the bar, did not take her home. You get some more people that like start confessing, like John. You want to talk about John Ramsey?
Yeah, John Ramsey. John Ramsey is a very great, like,
too old.
He's a
for
very
this
good minor
shit.
character because like he's just like he's among this group of like dirtbags who's headed by Henry Grammer, who is like a moonshiner, former rodeo like whiz, who, by the way, there is a trend in the casting for this movie where a bunch of like songwriter or alt country type guys are just like in there. Like Henry Grammer is played by Sturgill Simpson, who is like an alt country dude. He Netflix made an anime of one of his albums. Bill Smith is played by Jason Isbell, who's another country guy. The Explosives guy is another singer-songwriter. And of course, Jack White has like a jump scare cameo where he does like audio red face at the end.
Yeah,
and
a little bit.
Yeah, he kind of does, but you know, it's you know what? I'm not going to say it's fine. It's not my decision to make as to whether to say that's fine. But
Also, Martin Scorsese
he made a
jumps
choice.
here.
We'll get to
that.
This is the reason I'm trying to like wind things down because I really want to talk about
John Ramsey.
ending.
John Ramsey is like he's like this. He's got this guy who's clearly already seen a bunch of shit, and so he gets recruited to do the deed on Henry Rowan, and Ernest straight up tells this guy, kill this dude and make it look like an accident, make it look like he killed himself, shoot him directly square in the forehead, all that.
The front is the front and the back is the back.
Yeah, it's just like so like Ramsey like tries to like get this guy drunk so he can kill him. Yeah, but he catches feelings and actually like enjoys hanging out with the guy, and they kind of become friends for a while.
Yeah.
And then like when the time comes for him to actually do the job, like he can't bring himself to actually like do it the way that he was told to do it. So he just like shoots him in the head and like gives the gun to Ernest, and that's when he's like, I can't fucking do this shit anymore. Like, I'm out of here.
Except he still gets pulled in for
Except he still
thing.
gets pulled into for another thing.
It's like,
thankfully he doesn't have to kill. He doesn't have to kill anyone. But basically, Ernest grabs him and like by the collar and says, "You need to get this guy to blow up Bill and Rita's house. God damn it! You need to do it now.
You need to get the guy who's going to actually do the thing."
Just the fucking game of telephone murder, basically.
why don't you do it? I don't know what he looks like.
And then when like he finally gets arrested and sees that he's on the hook for all of this shit because of Ernest, he's like, he sings so quickly. He's just like, get a pencil.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm
this
talking.
on my neck. Get a pencil.
He's just like, I'm ready to talk.
It's one of those scenes that you need to see just because there's some good like hand acting in that moment.
It's an amazing scene.
But yeah, so you have all these people singing, and you know, Ernest eventually like starts to break under it. He's going to get taken to court, about to testify, gets pulled aside by Brendan Fraser, taken into like the Masonic Lodge to talk about to like get coached into not actually singing.
They get him to rationalize it away again, but like he's like taken to prison where he is eventually told, "Hey, your daughter died from whooping cough," and like it finally fucking gets to him.
Yeah. And the thing, it plays so hard because it goes from that kind of deconstructed scene of Anna getting murdered. Like, you see her fall to the ground, and then the very next cut is his daughter dead in the bed with Molly crying over her. So it's just like, no, you get fucking smacked twice across both cheeks.
Yeah.
With those deaths.
The
like,
fucking reveals.
It fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure enough, he gets told that, and he's just in shambles,
just wailing like a baby. Just like
because the FBI agent is the guy who like breaks the news to him, but he doesn't know which kid it is. He barely even knows like the reason why like his child died, and so like he's in prison. Like, he had to suss out which of his kids just died, and the only person there to console him is like this fucking shark. Yeah.
Who all he can bring himself to do is just like do the most vapid prayer.
Yeah, like, it's just like, oh no, the poor baby.
The baby's in heaven now.
He's with God now.
Fucking disgusting. Just the fucking worst. So, you know, they have that scene, and then, you know, you finally have him turning back over to the FBI and being like, I'm gonna testify for them. He goes to tell Hale this, and the whole conversation, Hale just keeps trying to drill in it, like, just keeps saying like, don't do something you're gonna regret, like, and that conversation is where you like start to fully get the weight of what King Hale as a character represents in this film. It's not simply that he's this evil, greedy old man, but like when he has that moment where he, like, Ernest says to him, like, the people aren't gonna, the Osage will not take you back, like, they will not be on your side. Like, King Hale keeps saying like, oh, you know, it's sad, and there'll be some outcry for a little bit, but they'll forget. People forget. Like, it's just gonna be an everyday thing, and that is where the mask like finally fully slips to like what he represents, and that like just the true evils of history, where like there is this assumption among the people who commit these acts that kind of history is written by the victor, where they just assume like, oh, you know, because we're going to be the ones who survive, that means no one's going to remember you fucking people who died on the way there. But like, history has a funny fucking way of working out where that turns out that is not actually always the case. It
makes clear the way that the dismissive ways, you know, that people are taught to feel toward these atrocities are, but it also, like, that's not the end of it. And this is going to come up, you know?
Which we will end up seeing, like, even further into the ending. But, you know, you have that moment, finally. Ernest is on the stand. He's testifying to everything, the ways in which he was involved in, like, the conspiracy. Then they finally drill down on like, did you engage in a relationship with Molly Kyle simply out of orders from King Hale? And he's like, no, I genuinely love that woman. And it's true.
Yeah.
Like, not only in the context of this film, but the main reason why Scorsese wanted to focus in on that relationship as like the heart of the movie is because he was speaking with the members of the Osage, and they would tell him like, no, yeah, that couple like truly loved one another. Like, it was not like just some some simple marrying this woman for the money type deal. There was some kind of genuine connection between them.
Yeah, that connection is like the one thing that makes him like even remotely redeemable as a human being.
Yeah.
Because
at the base of him, he just wants to be in love with this woman,
Like-
and he is just being puppeteered.
Yeah.
Is the only thing.
And then that leads to...
I wouldn't even say he was being puppeteered. I like
Well, he acts on his own, but I mean, you know,
yeah, like
it's that,
he
you can
like-
tell he cares, that he has the capacity to be a caring, decent person.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
he's-
evil people do have the capacity to care too.
Sometimes.
Yeah. But,
While he's high-fiving the KKK, he's gonna go...
fucking the KKK jump scare, like partway through the movie, they just show up for like a split second and then they're gone.
Yeah, they're like mentioned once beforehand, but and
You're
then
like,
like,
hey,
oh, they're here.
Ernest, say...
Yeah, but so you know you have him
We
confess to
should.
everything.
I'm sorry. Like we
No,
should.
you're good.
Going back a little ways, we need to talk
Tulsa.
about like there's that one scene where we finally get a little bit of like Molly's like interior voice, like where she talks about like the hate that she holds in her heart and how like she is kind of afraid of it, but she knows like, but like she's kind of afraid of it, and like it makes like the hate and the sadness that she holds inside of her as she's walking through this crowd of just like white people passing by her constantly. Like it's just like that is like that character's movement, like her arc throughout the film, like it is like early on, like her character is like, and Lily Gladstone's performance is so incredible because like early on in like not even talking about her, like in the first conversation between Hale and Ernest, Hale talks about like a tendency for the Osage to like be quiet, and like he warns Ernest against like talking just to fill empty space, and like they like that is like and like that line is basically there to like set up Molly's whole thing where she will just like you know that like she is like she's the like you can like I don't know how to express this, but
like that oftentimes that silence is just the what's not being said that is held in power.
And like she's
She's
like,
a very internal person.
Yeah.
Yes. And they stick to that for the entire movie, except for like this one scene where we like hear her, like we hear like, and this is like after like shit has already started going down. Like I think it's around the time of her trip to Washington, where like.
It's
where,
shortly.
like,
it's like literally right before she goes.
Like
to
she's like
Washington.
on her way. Yeah.
Where like
After
stuff is already
someone tried to
happening.
talk
She's
her
already
out of it.
ill.
Like we can't like, you know, we can't be funding that right now. It sounds crazy. You should be arrested.
And she's like, literally, this might be the last fucking thing I do.
Yeah.
And she's already ill. She's already like suffered like incredible like personal tragedy. Like not even talking about like the sort of like the terror of being in a community that is like under siege in the way that the Osage are. It's just like it is like it's heartbreaking, and you really get a feeling of like just like how deep she really feels about all of this.
Yeah.
And
the
like
powerful
it's
emotion and
horrible.
grief that you never hear
That-
externally.
It's incredible.
I don't want to backtrack too much, but I feel kind of dwelling on her performance, like it is that internality of her character that makes the moments where she finally expresses those emotions hit so fucking hard. Yeah. Like, it's not just that internal monologue, but after the explosion at Bill and Rita's house, when Ernest goes back to his home to tell everyone what happened, and he's not even able to say anything to her, like, what house got bombed. Like, she just knows from the fact that he's not saying anything that her sister died in the explosion.
Yeah.
She just fucking wails and screams. And it's one of those things that just stabs into your fucking soul. Like, and it's because she plays everything else so quiet, subdued, terse, very matter of the fact throughout the rest of the film that makes those moments just stab like knives in your chest.
It's
like,
such a fucking heartbreaker.
Yeah. But yeah, so returning back to where we are, and
going back.
kind of in term, we're going to be returning to Molly because, you know, we have the case has essentially come to a close. We see Molly and Ernest meeting in the back rooms of the courthouse, and, you know, she sits him down and asks him, have you told all of your truths at this point? And he's like, yep. And I feel like a great weight is lifted off of my shoulder. And she's like, you sure you've told all of them? And he's like, yep, definitely. And she just has to straight up ask him, like, what did you give to me? What did you put into the shots? And like Evie was describing earlier, he hesitates and he can't fucking bring himself to say that he was poisoning her, and just says insulin. And she gets up, walks out the room.
Yeah, she just fucking leaves.
The most powerful silence.
Yeah.
Knowing the storm of what could be said raging in her, you know, but she just like walks away.
I don't even think that it's like there's definitely anger in there, but like you can just see from the look on her face, it's more of like a just deep, sad disappointment.
Yeah.
In what he told her. Like, she's just like, you can tell she's internally saying, just please tell me the truth. Yeah. Like, just tell me that you poisoned me. This would hurt less if you told me what you did to me.
Yeah.
But you did not. So I'm going to leave. And then suddenly out of nowhere, we hear this orchestra starting, like dramatic orchestra start to swell, and this narrator say, and the right had won, and fucking smash cut. We're in a like radio play where they are like essentially doing the epilogue for like where everyone has ended up after that case. And we essentially find out that the film that we have been watching has more or less been a radio play reenactment of the events as told by the FBI, as they kind of say there.
It's like at the very least, like, this is how like the epilogue contextualizes the whole movie in a certain way that is like I think it's really smartly done. Because
it's maybe one of my favorite endings of all time. I think, like, I need to think about it for like a long time, but I think it might be like top 10 for me.
Wow.
Because one, I love meta shit.
Sure.
Meta shit is like my bread and butter. Like, anytime a movie just kind of like strips the veil of its role as like not fiction, because this is a nonfiction story, but, you know, as entertainment, like, just this has been a play that we are presenting to you. Anytime a movie does that, it's my favorite thing.
Meta shit. Let's go.
But this fucking ending feels so much like Scorsese, like, just fucking drilling into like the true crime economy that we currently live in.
Yeah.
Like, obviously radio plays are a thing that have always existed, but monetizing this, like, by having such a stark and harrowing presentation of the events that we have seen for the last 3 hours to then pull the rug out from under you and present it as this like heightened like thing that's presented by fucking cigarette companies
Lucky strike
to like make them money.
Yep.
And the shit like fucking podcast reads. This episode is brought to you by Audible, where you can listen to the audiobook for Killers of the Flower Moon right now. Like it feels like some shit like that, like Scorsese just being like, this is what these things can feel like if we are not presenting them with the gravity that they deserve.
And I don't think I absorbed any of that until like I watched it the second time, where that like, because at first I was a little blindsided by the ending. I was trying to be like, what the fuck was that? And then I watched it the second time and I was like, oh, I see.
Yeah. I mean, Scorsese has kind of always had a lot of times where he has these examinations of...
The ending feels very like the king of comedy to me.
Yes. That's what I was going to say, is like his endings usually in some way or another are trying to turn the camera, the lens on the viewer to make you think about why it was that we were presenting things this way. Why did I tell this story? Why did I make the choices that I make? To get that question mark going in your head so you are thinking about that film
and
moving
girl,
forward in your life.
Yeah.
But the thing that really drills it home is the fact that after they do all of their like heightened radio performance stuff, you got people on stage like doing Foley, the orchestra behind them. You have, like Evie mentioned, Jack White doing red face voice acting, which in and of itself is kind of like a condemnation of like how poorly presentations of these kinds of things can be handled. After all that, you have the narrators say like, oh yeah, and you know, Molly Kyle died in this year, like at this age, and her obituary in the paper read as follows. And suddenly, up to the microphone walks Martin Scorsese himself, where he reads off Molly Kyle's obituary, which is just very terse, matter of fact, and does not even mention the murders that took place in her community. This real person who we consumed the profound suffering of for the entire duration of this film didn't want to be remembered for being tied to these awful things.
Yeah.
Like this is not a legacy that she wanted to leave behind. And to really drive that home, as soon as Scorsese finishes that obituary reading, we cut to this overhead shot over like a field of Osage people in a drum circle, like just kind of showing you like, despite everything that happened to this community, they still continue on. This is not a thing that destroyed them, despite what, you know, history books might make it out to be, despite absolute scumbags like or like King Hale's character who said that like, oh, these things will be forgotten, these people, you know, God will move on from these people and, you know, it will no longer be their time. They are still there. They still live on this planet. And, you know, everyone is dressed in like bright traditional attire, the circle almost looking like a flower, like, you know, a flower moon. However, something that I feel like I noticed, and this is another one of those me probably reading too much into like imagery and shit, is it also kind of looks like an eye staring back at us in the audience as well. Like, especially if you start taking this film as being about like complicity, like especially specifically white complicity in a system of like just pure cruelty to marginalized people.
I hadn't even considered that, but when you said that, I'm like, oh, fuck. I could have 100% see if that was the case, that that's what they were aiming for. Yeah, that... God damn it. What a fucking brilliant man. By the way, required listening for this podcast. This will only take a couple minutes of your time maximum. Go look for the uncensored version of the band King Missiles song. You can find it on YouTube.
Martin Scorsese.
That's basically my feelings on this man, and I think it will help you kind of contextualize all the meta-narratives going on here and like the greater ends of that man's work.
Okay.
But definitely check that out.
Evie.
Yeah, the moment like where Scorsese kind of ends his part of the movie with like reading the obituary, like the thing that the way that I kind of took it was like it's condemning the obituary itself, where it's like these people were so thoroughly dehumanized that like you don't even mention that like her whole family preceded her because they were like systematically murdered for their money.
That's another very good interpretation of it, yeah.
Where it is like a condemnation of the fact that like we had forgotten, or like we never, like white America never even cared to know in the first place,
Never
this
fully
woman's story and what
internalized
had happened to her.
Yeah.
And the Osage people, obviously.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's like and ending it with that like dance circle is like it's beautiful, like, and it's really like a thing I really loved about this movie is like how much the lens was on the Osage community, and it's of course limited by the fact that like, you know, it's directed by Martin Scorsese, and like the writers of the screenplay aren't native and all that kind of stuff, but like you still saw so much of just like their reactions to like you know, this sort of like rate of terror, and like their community institutions like trying to protect themselves, and kind of like giving the Osage like the last visual of the movie, like I think it's like it's the only way you can end it.
I mean, it's incredibly intentful that like both the way that the movie opens and the way that the movie closes is focused on the Osage. Like we kind of skipped past it, but the way that the movie opens is with this like hut of Osage people essentially talking about how lamenting the fact that their children are going to basically just be assimilated into white America slowly over time, and that like effectively believing that their community is done and it's just going to slowly die out. So to, by the end of that movie, still have those traditions like strong enough that you have this massive field of people still participating is a beautiful sentiment.
It is an oddly hopeful note at the end there.
No, yeah, like for all the fucking darkness that we live through, like it tries its best to say like, no, these people are still surviving and out there. Like, despite all of their hardships, they still are living on this planet. So, yeah, fucking phenomenal movie.
Yes.
Like, I wish I could tersely describe final thoughts on this movie, but I mean, it's aside from The King of Comedy, I think this is probably my favorite Scorsese movie that I've seen so far. There's definitely like a good chunk of his films I still haven't seen, but it's really high up there. It is, I would argue, an achievement of a movie and what it accomplishes. Evie?
Yeah, this is a fantastic movie. I know I occasionally say you don't need to bother watching this one, or like this one is not worth it. This is a movie worth it's worth it.
You need to experience it.
Yeah.
You should
also
just feel with it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, watch it and also then read indigenous critics like perspectives on it, because like you get you'll get a lot out of it.
Bridget?
You heard it here, folks. Remember to subscribe to Apple Plus to get all your great programming.
We're not on Apple Plus. Don't tell them that one.
Yeah, we're not on Apple Music. Do you have actual final thoughts about this film?
This movie was funded by Apple, which is why I'm making that Apple joke. Yeah.
It does have a fat like Apple Originals at the beginning of it.
Yeah, it does. But hey, I mean, if it
Whoever's
came
going to pay more money,
Apple.
what do you have actual final thoughts on this movie, Bridget?
This movie is suffering for 3 hours. It's very good if you want 3 hours of suffering. It is artisanal suffering.
True.
However, it is not something I ever want to watch again. So
I watched this movie 3 times now.
I only saw it twice. I don't think I could stop
that
watching
is
it
the
again. It
kindest
hurts so much.
read I think
powerful.
I have.
Oh wait, you had one joke that you mentioned during the watching of it. Do you recall what it is? Because I do. Doofenshmirtz's voice. If I had a nickel for every time Leonardo DiCaprio played a horrible racist, I wouldn't have many nickels, but it'd be weird that it happened twice.
Yes, that is a weird aspect that he's been cast as racist man in 2.
Anyways, Bree, your final thoughts?
Gosh, I mean, we've already been through everything. It is such a fucking experience, and I think, like, you know, like we've been saying, it as much as we as white people further in the future can possibly understand it, mostly brings to your mind like just how much of an atrocity, you know, this white.
She's
white. How much of an atrocity this whole thing was. It really does its due diligence to show, like, you know, just all of the horrid shit that was going on. It shows, you know, the complicity that came from how we accepted these things happening later. It does not, you know, all of the shitty, edgy, like, animated shows that have happened in the US that have said, we don't care about your feelings, it's gonna get uncomfortable. This is the good version of that. This is, no, you're gonna see the systematic racist truths of your world, and you're gonna fucking listen. I'm gonna sit you down, and we're gonna talk about this, and this is the good kind of that. The absolute inverse.
It's all... You present Martin Scorsese like he's this drill sergeant, like, sitting you down when he's like... When he's like the kindliest old, like,
The
Italian
magic
American.
of cinema.
Yeah, like the Full Metal Jacket instructor or something.
He's this kindly old Italian American man. Anyways,
Yeah.
So Bree,
Yeah,
what are we watching next?
that's a very good question.
Are we
Jay.
watching Pocahontas now, or the Good Times Pocahontas, or Pocahontas 2?
Stop it.
Nothing so droll.
I love how upset Evie gets about Pocahontas.
I mean, especially
fucking
like
bullshit.
after just watching like one of the few like good films toward that of, you know, people of
We
native
watched
descent.
Prey beforehand, by the way.
Yeah,
That's
let's just
one
go
of the
full
other
speed
ones.
ahead
Yeah.
in the other direction and just watch like Pocahontas, Bone Tomahawk, just like
Hey,
Dances with Wolves.
yeah, Dances with Wolves.
the Good Times Pocahontas is even worse than the Disney one.
Anyways,
I don't wanna
let's
hear
let
about
Bree-
it.
let's
Allow
let
me
Bree say
to
her.
let you all know what you forgot. Now, you see, Jay, you were very. This was your pick, right, Jay?
Yeah, yes.
You were
I
very
don't know why
kind.
I deserve
Yeah.
this.
And that you have gifted me a film with so many actors, with
Yes.
so many people in it.
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many ways I could have gone, so I dug deep. And I looked deep down into it, and I finally decided, wild card, bitches!
Ding, 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 ding. We have our first wild card of the
Outside of
show.
the technicality that got me out of it before, this is my first wild card, and I've picked a real freaking banger.
What'd you
Girls, I think I'm the favorite in this podcast. Do you see 4 LeBarons? Do you
Oh,
see 4
no!
LeBarons, girls?
No!
No, I only see 1 LeBaron because the next movie we're going to be watching is the early 2000s hit, The Triplets of Belleville by Seldom Showman. I was so waiting to drop that on y'all. Yes, The Triplets of Belleville,
Okay.
a wonderfully,
thank
it's an
God.
animated film that is very, very fun, very, very gripping, and just as I recall, a pretty wonderful time.
I've
But
always
a
been
very,
needing
very
to
French
see
film.
this. This is good.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this movie.
I'm really glad. I recall it being quite a hoot. So I was really happy to be able to. This is one of those films I'm like, not only did I want to see something kind of like a joyous return to something that could kind of make me happy, I think y'all are going to love it too. It's a real hoot.
I'm sure I'll enjoy it.
There is also a completely unrelated music video because I forget what the deal was, but the guy who recorded like what seems like the theme for this was like completely cut out of the project for some reason. And there is a music video sung by a guy who, you know, in his music career, for whatever reason, I gotta look up why, was not involved in the film after he made that. So, but it's a really peppy music video that I will also refer to y'all. It won't really spoil anything, but it'll just get the zhuzh up the mood. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to revisiting this and getting to talk about it.
Motherfucker scared the hell out of me. I thought,
Jay, what did
3
you think
heart
this
attacks.
movie was?
you know what movie I thought this was.
No, I
Just
don't.
quoting.
She was trying to fake us out with Freddy Got Fingered.
Oh.
That's
Favorite
why I was
child,
reacting.
Freddy. Hmm?
Yeah, I only see 2
I
LeBarons.
only see 1 LeBaron. I don't see 2 LeBarons.
Or I don't see
Oh,
2.
right.
I thought Jay was
Okay.
going to have a heart attack. All right. But yeah, no,
I thought it
Triplets
was
of
too.
Belleville, 2003. Wonderful.
I mean, that would have been
wonderful
great because I mean, I didn't have to watch the movie again. Like, it's just like,
Oh,
oh,
I
cool. I
would've
could just,
made us
like,
all
I
review
could just
it.
like rock up to the podcast recording, being like, all right, Freddy got fingered. Let's do it.
thing. Oh,
I didn't forget that fucking movie. I don't think it's possible for
I'm
me
not
to.
saying never. In fact, there's too much that needs to be said about it. But girls,
Not yet.
it's not time.
All right, well, you've officially used up one of your wild cards.
Yep.
So,
Never guess
Only
what
like
the
what,
second one
5 to
will
go?
no, for this
We
year,
have 2?
she's got one more.
Yeah.
Okay, 2.
Yeah, I'm talking about her wild
I
cards.
still think it should only be 1, but that's just...
We'll see how this first year goes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We're feeling it
everyone,
out.
thank you for joining us. I'm Bru. I almost said I'm Bree. I'm Jay.
I'm Jay too. Why not? We're masquerading. I'm Bree.
I'm Evie.
I'm Bridget, and I have to say, boy, the French animation is always celebrated for its excellence.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
What reviews connected by cast or crew, deciding the next film, that's the gist. Put it on the list.